The crystal towers of Nexus Prime glowed like frozen fire, tall spires of light and stone humming faintly in the dusk. Their surfaces caught the last rays of the violet suns and turned them into rivers of color across the sky. For 10,000 years, they had been symbols of peace. Now they trembled with fear. Ambassador Lyrian pressed her translucent hand against the wide viewing wall of the council chamber. She did not blink. Her kind did not need to, but if she had, she would have feared missing even one heartbeat of the terrible sky. The heavens burned red, not with sunset, not with auroras, but with fire. The defense outposts were dying, and each burning shard that fell from orbit was another friend gone. "How long do we have?" Counselor Vex asked. His crystalline body flickered in uneven pulses of orange and gray. Older than any in the chamber, he had survived 800 cycles, yet tonight his voice quivered like a frightened child. Lyrian's voice came steady, though the vibration in her body betrayed her. "The defense fleet reports contact in 6 hours. Admiral Quinks believes they can hold for 2 more beyond that." 2 hours? The chamber fell silent, as though every word spoken might break what courage remained. Around the oval chamber, other counselors hummed in distress, their tones rising and falling like a broken choir. On the curved walls, hollows displayed the shape of doom, thousands of ships, organic and writhing, filling the stars like a black storm of insects. Each one pulsed with veins of red biolight. Each one carried soldiers that had never lost a war. The Krex Dominion had arrived. "The evacuation?" Counselor Mira asked, her light dim and trembling. She had been a teacher before age forced her into politics, and her glow was already thin as smoke. Lyrian shook her head. "Impossible. The hyperspace lanes are theirs, the trade routes burned. Even if we could leave, where would the Aryans go? The Verdani. They cannot move their cities. Their roots are the planets themselves." Mira closed her eyes. "Then it is not only us who die." Vex flared bitter orange. "We are farmers, artists, teachers. Our ships carry seeds and healing beams, not death. We are not warriors." "No," Lyrian agreed softly. "We are not." She turned, her reflection shivering across the polished crystal floor, and walked to the heart of the chamber. There, like a silent god, stood the communication array. 1,000 worlds could hear its cry. "But others are," she said. Her hands rose. The array awoke, filling the air with streams of light. "If no empire will stand with us, then we will call all, every colony, every settlement, every lonely station clinging to a barren rock. Someone will answer." "And if they do not," Mira whispered. Lyrian looked at the dying sky, then back at her people. "Then we die knowing we tried." The message she composed was simple. "To any who hear, the Zephyrian coalition stands at the edge of extinction. The Krex Dominion comes. They have destroyed 12 civilizations already. We offer everything, our crystals, our harvests, our medicine, even our sacred power cores. All we ask is help, please." When she pressed the final seal, the tower shook. The signal tore into folded space, a scream sent across the galaxy. Hours passed. Replies came, cold refusals, mercantile calculations, or silence. Sparta 7 could not spare a ship. Golden Harbor weighed their treasury and decided survival was not worth the risk. The hive minds dismissed 3 small species as not worth saving. The channels went empty. Lyrian stood long into the night in the communications hall, her light flickering dim with despair. Around her, technicians stared at blank screens, their hums low and hopeless. "Ambassador," Technician Roth cried suddenly. "Something on the outer rim, a signal." Lyrian's body flared bright. "One of the major powers." Roth shook his head. "No, ma'am, this system is marked uninhabited." He hesitated, "but the transmission is clear." "Put it through," Lyrian ordered. The holoscreen sparked. A figure appeared, not crystal, not scaled, not plated in kitten. The being's skin was soft, pale. Its eyes were small and dark. Its face shifted with strange muscles, alive with expression. "This is Commander Patricia Hayes of the Earth Defense Force," it said. The voice was calm, calm like the silence before an avalanche. Lyrian's crystal form rang like a struck bell. She had never seen such a species. She had never heard of Earth. Yet something in that human's gaze felt like both promise and threat. "We received your message." And for the first time that night, hope flickered in Nexus Prime. The council chamber felt smaller when the human's image filled the air. Ambassador Lyrian studied the stranger's face, that strange, soft surface alive with subtle motion. A raised brow, the faint tilt of the head, the calm weight of a voice that carried no fear. The galaxy had known predators before, but not like this. "I show no inhabited system by that name," Lyrian said carefully. Her body pulsed with uncertainty, a dim blue that betrayed what she wished to hide. "Earth, it does not appear in our charts." Commander Hayes inclined her head, an odd human gesture that seemed to signal both acknowledgement and curiosity. "We're in the Sol system, approximately 40,000 light-years from your position. That would explain the absence from your databases. Your surveyors must have passed us by." The chamber rippled with murmurs. 40,000 light-years, a backwater, a forgotten rim system. Lyrian pressed on. "Do you understand the scale of what we face? The Kreks have burned 12 civilizations in as many cycles. They have 15,000 ships advancing on Nexus Prime. Our defenses cannot hold." Hayes listened without interruption. Her eyes sharpened when Lyrian spoke of consumption, of worlds turned into breeding grounds for alien larvae. At last, she asked, "Casualties so far?" Lyrian hesitated. "They do not take prisoners. Entire populations are consumed." For a moment, silence stretched. Then Hayes spoke again, and her voice had changed. It was still calm, but not the calm of indifference. It was the calm of something dangerous choosing when to strike. "Understood," she said. "We're scrambling a response force now. Expect our arrival in 72 hours. Gasps rippled through the Zephyrian counselors. Vex flared harsh orange. 72 hours, by then we will be ashes." Lyrian leaned forward. "Commander Hayes, forgive me, but what can you possibly send? You must know that the Kreks have defeated fleets greater than ours. They fight as a hive mind, armed with weapons bred into their very flesh. Your people cannot stand against them." For the first time, the human smiled. It was not a kind smile. Lyrian's crystalline body thrummed with something she had never felt before, an emotion sharp and unsettling. "Don't worry about our capabilities, Ambassador," Hayes said. "We've been looking for something to do." The transmission ended. Hours later, Lyrian still stood in the comm hall, her glow dim. Around her, technicians whispered, "Who are they? What are humans? Can they be trusted?" Roth, the youngest among them, dared to ask aloud. "Ambassador, our records classify Earth as a death world, uninhabitable. If they live there, what does that make them?" No one answered. The Kreks came. Their advanced scouts dropped out of fold space on the system's edge, organic hulls rippling with bioluminescent pulses. They flew in perfect swarms, like veins of black blood crawling across the stars. The Zephyrian flotilla met them bravely, fragile crystal vessels firing beams of light. But their weapons, built for raiders and pirates, bounced harmlessly off chitin hulls. One by one, the defenders were overwhelmed. Ambassador Lyrian stood in the observation deck, watching the death of her people's fleet. Each bright crystal spark extinguished was another family gone. Her glow dimmed to the pale gray of morning. The Krek scouts pressed deeper. Soon the main fleet would follow. And still no help. Until space itself tore. 72 hours after Hayes' promise, the sky lit with impossible signatures. At first, the Zephyrian sensors glitched, reporting densities that should not exist, power levels that defied calculation. Then the truth broke through the static. Human ships. Ambassador Lyrian had expected elegance, perhaps something akin to the crystal artistry of her people or the flowing organic hulls of the Kreks. Instead, she saw blunt instruments of war. Human vessels were ugly things, all sharp angles and heavy plating, bristling with weapons. They carried no pretense of beauty, no thought of ceremony. They had been built for one purpose only, to kill. By the crystals, Counselor Vex whispered, his glow flickering in disbelief. "What are those things?" The flagship opened a channel. A man appeared, tall, broad, his skin dark, his hair gray at the temples. His uniform was simple but decorated with strange metallic pins. His eyes, though, were what held Lyrian's attention, sharp, calculating, and utterly unafraid. "Fleet Admiral Jake Morrison, Earth Defense Force," he said. He extended a hand, a human gesture Lyrian had studied once before. She hesitated, then touched her crystal fingers against it, startled by the heat of his skin. "Thank you for coming," Lyrian managed. Her voice trembled against the weight of her doubt. "But how many ships have you brought, our sensors?" Morrison smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. "Enough." Behind him, his officers stood ready. Colonel Lisa Parker, ground commander, whose eyes glittered with sharp violence. Dr. Ben Carter, science officer, already scanning Krek's biological data with hungry interest. Captain Sam Torres, fighter commander, whose grin suggested eagerness rather than fear. Lyrian's glow flickered uncertain. These humans were not saviors of peace. They were something else entirely. Predators, perhaps, but predators who had chosen to stand at her side. "Perhaps we should discuss the tactical situation," Parker said softly. Her voice carried an edge that felt like steel. Lyrian led them to the briefing chamber, where hollows displayed the Krek's armada. The humans studied the data in silence, their expressions hard and thoughtful. Finally, Dr. Carter spoke. "Their armor shrugs off energy weapons," he said, "but it's brittle against kinetic force. Bullets, rail slugs, high-velocity mass drivers, they've probably never faced solid projectiles before." Lyrian blinked. "Projectiles, you mean rocks?" The humans shared a glance half amusement, half predatory. "Something like that," Parker said. "And their coordination," Captain Torres added, studying swarm patterns. "Impressive but centralized, cut the command signal and the swarm collapses." "Which means," Morrison concluded, his voice low and certain, "we kill their queens first." Lyrian's glow trembled. "Admiral, 15,000 Krek ships, you brought fewer than 1,000. Morrison turned to her. "Ambassador, tell me, when scavengers threaten a village, what happens when real predators arrive?" Lyrian hesitated. "I do not understand." Colonel Parker leaned close, her eyes sharp. "The scavengers run, or they die." The humans turned back to their planning, efficient and cold. Lyrian felt her crystal heart hum with something she had never known before. Fear, yes, but also hope. She did not yet know if humanity could save Nexus Prime, but she understood one thing clearly. The Kreks had spent centuries preying on the weak. Now, for the first time, they had found something that was not prey. The sirens of Nexus Prime screamed across the city like a death hymn. From the observation decks, the Zephyrian people watched the stars grow dark. 15,000 Krek ships poured into the system, spreading in formations like a plague of locusts. Their hulls pulsed with sickly red light, each vessel alive with the heartbeat of the hive. The void became a sea of living nightmares. Ambassador Lyrian stood at the tactical gallery of the orbital command station, her crystal body humming with grief. "This is the end," Counselor Vex whispered beside her, his glow thin and ragged. "No one can stand against that." "No one but them," Lyrian answered. The humans had been silent until now. Their fleet floated in disciplined formation above Nexus Prime, 67 capital ships, 200 destroyers, and hundreds of fighter squadrons. They looked tiny compared to the swarm, outnumbered 20-1, perhaps more. And yet they did not flinch. Admiral Morrison's voice cut across the system-wide channels, steady and calm. "All Earth Defense Force units, execute Battle Plan Alpha. Remember, we're not here to play games. We're here to solve a problem." His tone carried no fear, only certainty. On the far edge of the system, the first contact came. Krek scouts detected the human fighters and swarmed forward in their familiar tide. Thousands of biocraft surged, wings beating with organic fury, linked by the hive's command. The humans did the unthinkable. Instead of retreating, they flew straight into the swarm. From the observation deck, Lyrian gasped aloud. "They will be slaughtered." "No," Captain Sam Tor's voice crackled over the comm. "We're just getting started." Human fighters cut through the swarm like blades through silk. They fired not beams of energy, but slugs of dense metal, accelerated to fractions of light speed. Each shot punched through Krek's armor as though it were brittle glass. Exoskeletons shattered, wings snapped, organs tore. In seconds, entire clusters of biofighters collapsed into drifting carcasses. "Targets are softer than expected," Torres reported with grim amusement. "All squadrons weapons free." The Krek's swarm faltered. Their hive mind, unprepared for such rapid slaughter, stuttered in confusion. Coordination broke. Where once they had flown like a single organism, now they tumbled apart, colliding and dying faster than the hive could adapt. Lyrian clutched the rail, her glow flickering in disbelief. "Impossible! No one has ever broken the swarm." "Then they've never fought predators before," Morrison said flatly. The humans pressed the advantage. Capital ships opened fire with rail cannons the size of towers, hurling projectiles at velocities too great for the eye to follow. Each impact tore massive holes through Krek's command ships, ripping apart queens that had guided entire fleets. When one of the vast biovessels died, the surrounding swarm lost direction, thrashing like a severed limb before being annihilated. Admiral, Dr. Ben Carter said over the tactical channel, "Our analysis confirms it. Kill the queens and the rest scatter. Recommend focusing all fire on command nodes." "Copy that," Morrison replied. "All units' priority targets are the largest bioships. Ignore the drones, cut off the head, the body dies." The human fleet moved like a machine, perfectly timed, every vessel sliding into place with terrifying precision. Destroyers darted ahead, covering fighters. Capital ships unleashed storms of kinetic fire, each shot collapsing another Krex command node. Within 30 minutes, the tide of battle had shifted. On the surface of Nexus Prime, the people gathered in plazas and temples, staring at the hollows broadcast from orbit. They had expected to watch their end. Instead, they saw the impossible. The sky filled with falling fire, not their own ships, but Krex carcasses raining like meteors into the atmosphere. Children stopped humming in fear. They sang, uncertain voices trembling with hope. But the Krex were not finished. At the edge of the system, the main hive ship arrived. Vast beyond comprehension, it stretched kilometers long, its body armored in layers of regenerating chitin. Its bioluminescent core pulsed brighter than a sun. This was not a command vessel. This was the heart of a hive cluster, carrying thousands of warriors and eggs ready to seed new worlds. It spoke across the system, its voice a hideous clicking thunder translated into every language. "Inferior beings, you cannot resist. You are food, you will be consumed. Surrender or drown in your own blood." The Zephyrians trembled. Even Lyrian's glow dimmed with terror. The words carried not only threat, but the certainty of a predator that had never known defeat. "Admiral," the comm officer said softly, "they demand our surrender." For a moment, the human bridge was silent. Then Admiral Morrison chuckled. The sound spread, first among his officers, then across the entire fleet. Hundreds of human voices laughing, calm, and amused in the face of extinction. "Well," Morrison said at last, "that was rude." The laughter grew louder. On the Zephyrian command station, counselors stared in disbelief. They laugh," Vex whispered. "Do they not understand?" Lyrian's body thrummed. No, she realized, they understood. That was why they laughed. "Open a channel," Morrison ordered. The hollow shifted, filling with the monstrous image of the Krex hive lord. Its mandibles dripped acid. Its eyes glittered with endless hunger. "This is Fleet Admiral Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force," he said calmly. "We received your demand, we decline, but we have a counteroffer." The Krex hissed. Morrison's gaze hardened. "You have slaughtered billions, you have burned worlds, this ends now. You have one chance, surrender unconditionally or be erased. You have 1 hour." The channel cut. Morrison turned to his officers. "Do you think they'll surrender?" "Not a chance," Parker said coldly. "Good," Morrison replied. "Then we show them what predators really look like." Lyrian's glow flared, caught between awe and fear. These humans were not saviors. They were something else, something the galaxy had not seen in millennia. Predators who hunted predators. And the Krex had just become prey. The Krex Hive Lord did not answer. It did not need to. Its silence was as arrogant as its words had been. Across the stars, the swarm pressed forward, vast wings unfolding, mandibles clashing, claws raking against void. 15,000 ships, an ocean of death, rolling toward Nexus Prime. The humans did not wait. "Execute beta formation," Admiral Morrison commanded. His voice was cold iron. The Earth fleet moved with precision no Zephyrian mind could comprehend. Capital ships split into triads, destroyers darted between them, fighters spread into layered arcs. It was not art, not harmony. It was efficiency sharpened into a weapon. Rail cannons roared. The first salvo struck a Krex command vessel squarely in its bioluminescent heart. The chitin hull cracked like dry crystal, shattering under forces it had never evolved to resist. In seconds, the queen inside died screaming, her psychic cry collapsing entire swaths of the swarm. "Target Alpha 3 eliminated," reported Dr. Ben Carter. His voice trembled not with fear but with dark satisfaction. "Hive coherence dropping in Sector 4. "Good," Morrison said. "Next." On the Zephyrian command station, Ambassador Lyrian watched the impossible unfold. Human Marines in powered armor launched from the docking bays of the Defiance and Retribution, streaking across the void toward Krek's ships. The boarding pods slammed into living hulls, cutting into flesh with explosive drills. Inside the bioships, the battle began. Colonel Lisa Parker led the first wave. Her armor was thick, sealed, and bristling with weapons the Zephyrians had no names for. Krek's warriors surged to meet them, their claws dripping acid, their mandibles snapping bone-cracking sounds. The humans fired. Bullets tore through Krek's armor. Acid splashed uselessly against sealed suits. Particle cloud grenades filled the air, clogging the gill vents of the insectoid monsters. One by one, the Kreks collapsed, gasping, twitching, suffocating. "Deck 3 clear," Parker reported calmly. "Minimal resistance, enemy adapting slowly, permission to advance deeper." "Granted," Morrison replied. The feed streamed across Lyrian's hollows. She saw humans move through alien corridors as if born for war. They stacked against doors, breached with precision, and swept rooms with unflinching efficiency. Their voices were steady, their movements exact. There was no fear in them, only focus. She whispered half to herself, "They are predators." Vex trembled beside her. "No, they are worse, they are hunters." Above the battlefield, Captain Sam Torres led his squadrons into the densest swarm yet. Thousands of Krek's fighters surged toward him, wings cutting trails of plasma through vacuum. "Eagle leader to all wings," Torres said, his tone casual, almost cheerful. "You've trained for this your whole life. Time to prove who the galaxy's real swarm is, weapons free." The fighters dove. Human craft rolled and twisted in ways that should have been impossible in vacuum. They threaded through enemy formations like blades, firing streams of hypervelocity rounds that tore apart Krek's fighters by the hundreds. Explosions filled the void, corpses spinning into the dark. "Command, this is Eagle Wing," Torres reported. "Enemy swarm dispersing. Too slow, too clumsy. We're carving them like turkeys on Thanksgiving." Lyrian turned to Morrison, confused. "Thanksgiving." Morrison almost smiled. An old hunting ritual. The Kreks struck back. From the massive hive ship, tendrils of bioplasma lashed across the void, striking human destroyers. One ship, the UES Resolute, took a direct hit, its hull shattered, fire blooming across its decks. For a heartbeat, silence froze the human fleet. Then Morrison spoke. His voice was calm, but behind it steel burned. "Retribution protocols. Wipe that thing off the map." The Defiance and her sister ship swung broadside. Hundreds of rail cannons fired as one, their slugs smashing into the hive ship's flank. Chitin shattered. Biolight spilled into space. Human fighters dove into the wound, dropping warheads into exposed organs. The Hive Lord screamed. Its psychic wail carried across the system, rattling even Zephyrian crystal bodies. Entire swarms spasmed, crashing into each other in confused agony. Now Morrison ordered, "All ships finish it." On board the Krek's hive ship, Parker's Marines advanced into the Queen's chamber. The monstrous matriarch towered 3 stories tall, her swollen abdomen poolsing with eggs, her mandibles dripping with venom. She struck claws slamming into armored humans, but the Marines held. Weapons thundered. Bullets shattered her limbs, particle clouds choked her breath, incendiary rounds turned her chamber into a furnace. Colonel Parker raised her rifle, her voice flat. "For every world you consumed." The shot blew through the Queen's skull. The psychic scream tore across the stars, then died. In orbit, the swarm convulsed. Without their queen, thousands of Krek's ships broke formation, thrashing like severed limbs. Human fighters tore through them mercilessly. Capital ships finished the crippled vessels with cold precision. "Enemy flagship destroyed," Dr. Carter reported. His voice carried grim satisfaction. "Hive mind collapsing." Morrison nodded. "No survivors, pursue and destroy. We don't leave problems half-solved." For 6 more hours, the slaughter continued. Every Krek's vessel was hunted down, cornered, and eliminated. Scouts tried to flee into fold space. Human fighters chased and cut them apart. Stragglers hid behind moons. Rail cannons punched through rock to kill them. There was no mercy, no hesitation. When it was over, 15,000 Krek's ships had become drifting carcasses. The system was littered with burning wreckage, and not one human vessel had been lost beyond the Resolute. Nexus Prime was saved. But Lyrian's glow dimmed with unease as she watched the victorious fleet reform. Saved, yes, but at what cost? She had seen predators before, she had seen conquest, but this was extermination. And as she looked at Admiral Morrison's calm face, she knew the Kreks had not been destroyed by chance. Humanity had decided they would not exist anymore. The galaxy had just witnessed a new truth. There was something more terrifying than the Kreks in the dark. And it had a name. 6 months after the Battle of Nexus Prime, the galaxy no longer whispered the name of the Kreks Dominion. It spoke another. Earth. Ambassador Lyrian stood once again on the great observation deck of Nexus Prime's tallest spire. The city below had healed. Its floating farms shimmered in sunlight, its markets hummed with laughter. The people sang again, not the dirges of fear, but the harmonies of peace. Yet the skies were no longer the same. Human patrol ships glided between the stars like shadows of steel, their angular hulls bristling with silent promise. The Kreks were gone, entirely gone. Admiral Morrison had not lied. After the Queen's death at Nexus Prime, the humans had not rested. They had split their fleet into hunting packs, each one diving into Kreks territory with relentless purpose. They cracked hive after hive, sterilized breeding worlds with fire and steel, and hunted every swarm until none remained. It was not a war, it was extermination. The last hive ship had fallen 3 weeks ago, its death scream silenced by rail fire and marine blades. The galaxy trembled at the news. The council chamber of Nexus Prime filled with voices the day Morrison prepared to depart. Delegates from a dozen species crowded the crystalline hall, their bodies glowing, pulsing, or chittering in nervous awe. "They are too dangerous," whispered Councillor Vex, his glow pale. "What stops them from turning their weapons on us?" "Gratitude," Lyrian replied, though even she did not fully believe her words. Gratitude was a fragile thing beside power. The air shimmered as Admiral Morrison entered with his staff. Colonel Parker walked at his side, her armor polished, her eyes as sharp as ever. Dr. Carter trailed with his datapad, carrying Krek's biological samples like trophies. Captain Torres strode in grinning, his pilot's swagger unshaken. Morrison's presence was quiet, but it carried weight heavier than the galaxy itself. He did not look like a conqueror. He looked like a man who had done what needed to be done and would do it again without hesitation. "Ambassador," Morrison said, extending his hand in the human gesture. Lyrian touched it carefully, still startled by human warmth. "We came when you called, now the Kreks are no more." "Yes," Lyrian answered, her glow flickering with conflicted hues. "And the galaxy trembles because of it." The council debated, their voices clashing like broken music. The stellar Commonwealth feared human expansion. The hegemony wanted treaties to bind them. The Free Trade Federation offered riches to distract them. But Morrison's answer to all was the same. "We didn't come here to conquer, we came to help." Lyrian pressed him. "And if another predator rises, if another species threatens the weak?" Morrison's gaze sharpened. "Then you call us and we come again." That night, Lyrian found him alone on the observation deck, staring at the stars. His shoulders were heavy, but his eyes were steady. "You could rule them all," she said quietly. "No power in the galaxy could stop you." Morrison turned, his smile faint, tired. "We're not here to rule. We're here to remind the universe that sometimes predators don't get to win." Lyrian's glow pulsed uncertain. "Do you not fear what the others will think? Fear can make people desperate." "Then let them be desperate," Morrison said. "But let them also remember Earth does not prey on the weak. We stand with them, and if anyone doubts that, they can ask the Kreks." The last human transport prepared to leave Nexus Prime. Marines boarded, scientists packed away samples, and pilots sang crude Earth songs that made no sense to Zephyrian ears. Before Morrison departed, he left one thing behind: a beacon. A small device planted in the heart of Nexus Prime's crystal tower, pulsing with steady light. "A direct line to Earth Defense Command," Carter explained. "If you ever face another threat, activate it, we'll hear." Lyrian's glow shimmered. "You would return." Morrison answered without hesitation. "That's what allies do." As the human fleet folded into the dark, Lyrian remained at the window. The stars glittered, peaceful yet changed. Word of humanity's hunt was spreading faster than light. Some species would cower, some would plot, some would beg for protection. but all would remember the lesson of the Krex. No matter how high a predator climbs, there is always something higher still. And now the galaxy knew what it was. Humanity. The Council of the Stellar Corps had not gathered in full session for 1,000 years. Now every seat was filled. Ambassador Lyrian stood in the central gallery, her crystal body shimmering with restrained unease. Delegates of 100 species flared, pulsed, or clicked in agitation. Hollow screens showed star maps where the Krex dominion had once sprawled, a vast expanse of space now marked with a single word. Cleansed, and at its edge, the insignia of Earth. The hegemony's delegate, scaled and golden, slammed his claws against the table. They are too strong. No empire should hold such power. If they can erase the Krex, they can erase any of us. The Free Trade Federation's prince oozed oily tones. We must negotiate contracts, bind them with treaties of commerce. Better to hold their hunger with gold than with fear. The Stellar Commonwealth spoke more softly. Or perhaps we appeal to their compassion. They claim to fight for allies, not conquest. If so, then diplomacy may suffice. The voices rose and clashed like storms. Fear spread like infection. Finally, Lyrian was called to speak. She looked at the chamber, at the endless parade of frightened faces, and remembered Admiral Morrison's calm, lethal certainty. My people called for help, she said simply, and only Earth answered. Without them, the Krex would be feasting on our bones tonight. We owe them our lives. The chamber rippled with uneasy tones. And what, the hegemony snapped, will you owe them tomorrow, when their fleets demand tribute, when their armies demand land, when they laugh at our treaties and take what they please? Lyrian's glow dimmed. She could not answer. She wanted to believe Morrison's words that humans sought no empire, only protection, but the galaxy had never seen such power left unused. 3 weeks later, humanity was tested. A minor predator race, the Skara, struck at Verdani colony routes, believing Earth would not intervene so far from Nexus Prime. Their ships descended, their soldiers burned forests, and the Verdani screamed across the stars. The beacon pulsed. Earth answered. Admiral Morrison's Fourth Fleet arrived in less than 2 days. The Skara expected negotiations, demands for reparations. They received none. Instead, Earth deployed. Colonel Parker's Marines dropped directly into the Verdani forests, their powered armor moving among the living root cities with practiced precision. They fought in silence, every shot placed, every movement efficient. Within hours, the Skara raiders were annihilated. Not defeated, annihilated. Verdani survivors wept as Parker's soldiers sealed their weapons, guarding the routes instead of leaving. Dr. Carter distributed field medicine, teaching Verdani healers to cleanse their burned soil. Captain Tor's fighters patrolled skis once choked with fire. When Morrison stood before the Verdani Council, his words were few. You are safe now. No one harms our allies. The Verdani offered their entire treasury. Morrison refused. We didn't come for payment. We came because you asked. Word spread faster than light. The Free Trade Federation panicked. The hegemony sharpened its fleets. The Commonwealth whispered of alliances, and in every back channel of power a single question burned. Was humanity savior or tyrant in waiting? Lyrian found herself summoned to private councils, pressed with endless questions. Did the humans threaten her? Did they make demands? Did she believe their promises? She remembered Morrison's gaze across the stars, his smile that was both predator and protector. I believe them, she answered, and each time she said it, her glow dimmed a little less, even as fear pressed from all sides. But then came the message. One of the Ringworld alliances had attempted contact with Earth, offering alliance in exchange for weapons technology. The humans had not refused, they had laughed. The hollow recording spread like wildfire. Admiral Morrison smiling as he told the Ringworld envoy, You want our weapons? Earn them. Stand with us when it matters. Until then, you're on your own. The laughter that followed chilled every council chamber. The galaxy understood. Earth was not for sale. Earth was not for conquest. Earth would choose its allies, and once chosen, defend them to the last breath. Late one cycle, Lyrian stood again on the Crystal Tower's balcony. Admiral Morrison joined her, silent, his eyes on the stars. You've shaken the galaxy, she whispered. He chuckled. Good, maybe it needed shaking. They fear you. They should. His voice was calm, without arrogance. But tell me, Ambassador, do you fear us? Lyrian hesitated. The stars shimmered across her crystalline form. She thought of the Krek's scream, of Parker's calm execution, of Carter's clinical dissection, of Tor's cheerful predation. Yes, she said honestly, but not because you will destroy us. I fear what your existence means. You have broken the balance. You have shown us that the galaxy's predators can be prey. Nothing will be the same. Morrison's gaze was steady. Then maybe that's what the galaxy needed all along. The Council's alarms flared that night. New reports flooded in. Another swarm species, long hidden beyond the rim, had stirred, not Kreks, but something older, something worse. The galaxy turned its eyes to Earth. Would the humans answer again? The alarms of the Galactic Council chamber pulsed like a heartbeat. Reports poured in, fragmented, panicked, unbelievable. A rim colony gone silent. Merchant convoys devoured whole, fleets erased without warning. Not the Kreks, something older, something worse. Ambassador Lyrian listened as delegates shrieked and shouted, their lights flickering in terror. The council chamber shook with fear, but one name was on every tongue. Earth. They summoned Admiral Morrison. The human fleet entered council space with brutal grace. Angles of steel, weapons gleaming, engines burning with impossible power. Morrison walked into the chamber as though it belonged to him, Colonel Parker at his side, Carter with his data pads, Tors with his easy grin. Delegates recoiled, some hissed, some begged, some demanded answers. Morrison raised a hand, silence fell. You've seen what we can do, he said. His voice was steady, calm, heavy as stone. We didn't come here to build an empire, we didn't come here to rule, but understand this. If another predator threatens this galaxy, we will not watch from the sidelines. Then you will be the rulers, the hegemony cried. Morrison's eyes narrowed. No, we will be the shield. The choice is yours, stand with us or stand aside. But if you prey on the weak, if you burn worlds, if you consume without mercy, then you will meet the same fate as the Kreks. The words fell like thunder. Later, on the balcony of the Crystal Tower, Lyrian spoke to Morrison alone. The stars spread endless before them, cold and beautiful. You've changed everything, she whispered. He nodded. That was always going to happen. The galaxy thought predators ruled forever, but predators only win until something stronger comes along. Lyrian turned to him, her crystalline glow bright with both hope and fear. And you are stronger. We're not just stronger, Morrison said. We're different. Earth taught us compassion as well as cruelty. We don't have to be monsters, we choose. She trembled, and if one day you choose differently. His smile was faint, tired, but real. Then you stop us. That's the burden of allies, Ambassador, trust even when it's dangerous. The Council voted. For the first time in galactic history, every major power signed a single accord. Not with the hegemony, not with the Commonwealth, not with the Trade Federation. With Earth. They called it the Pact of Nexus. A vow that the strong would defend the weak, that predators would no longer feed unchecked. And at its heart stood humanity, flawed, dangerous, compassionate, terrifying. The new enemy stirred on the rim. Their ships were vast, their hunger endless. Scouts whispered of horrors even the Kreks would have feared. But when their shadows crept toward settled space, they found human fleets waiting. Morrison's flagship burned like a storm on the horizon, Tor's fighters circling like wolves, Parker's Marines sharpening their blades, Carter dissecting every weakness with cold precision. And beside them, for the first time, stood fleets of other species, Zephyrian, Verdani, Aryan, even one-sprout hegemony cruisers. Together, Ambassador Lyrian stood in the observation deck once more. The sky burned again, but this time it was not with despair. It was with defiance. Her glow pulsed steady and bright. When Nexus Prime fell silent, she whispered, only Earth answered the call, and now the galaxy answers with them. She looked at Morrison, who stood beside her, calm as always. What do you call this? She asked. Morrison's gaze swept the stars, where predators hunted predators and allies stood as one. His smile was sharp, fierce, full of promise. The beginning, he said. Epilogue. The story of the Kreks spread across 1,000 worlds. Children learned it in schools. Soldiers whispered it before battle. Diplomats trembled when speaking Earth's name. Humanity had proven a terrible truth. The galaxy's food chain was not fixed. Predators could be prey. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, the thing at the top was not a monster but an ally. The age of Earth had begun.